Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a special guest. She is a gospel artist, Grammy Award-winning gospel artist, I might add, real estate mogul, mom, and wife to Major League Baseball player Gary Sheffield. Please help me welcome DeLeon Sheffield. DeLeon, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing this great day?
Doing really well. I wanted to talk to you today. You have a show coming out, and I was privy to see a little of the episodes coming, and it was refreshing to see you guys. You and your mom are business partners in real estate.
Yes.
And you're showing that on your new show, Sheffield Real Estate. Tell us how you and your mom joined forces like that. Have you guys always worked together in business?
Well, my mother actually has been doing real estate a little over 30-some years. And so while I was singing and making music and doing all of that stuff, she was doing real estate deals. So when we weren't on the road, I literally was her sidekick in her office all the time, in the car with her, she's making deals happen. And I honestly said that I would not, this is something that I probably would never do. I just want to have no parts of it. And as I got older, I thought, I think I want to get my license and start buying real estate to flip. And so I said, Mom, why don't you come up here and get your broker's license in Florida? And at that point, she did, and she was like, man, I have done this is way too much work for me to just exhaust this with just solely you. She's like, we're about to make this happen, and we're going to have a business. And that's kind of how it evolved.
Wow, that is beautiful. Now, you guys decided to take it to the major screen, put it on television, and what I didn't realize is that there are not a lot of African-American, particularly women, who are in the forefront of real estate businesses. Why do you think that is?
We kind of have this stereotypical look at our real estate agents and, who we trust to handle the deals, and I think that's why you see, not so many African-American women participating or really being highlighted or shown in that way. And so I want to change that perception that, we're out here definitely making moves and, just to see women in such a positive light, entrepreneurship, mother and daughter, family business, just making some really great moves it's a change to see. And I think just overall, not just for television, but just in general, in business, it's nice to see.
Yes, it is. And I have a question regarding that. Being in the forefront, you and your mom, how is it dealing with, because you guys are on the show, I know you guys are dealing with large, a certain class of people. Mm-hmm. Is it a different approach to business when you're dealing with maybe people who have a little more resources, or is it just about the same across the board?
I would say it's probably just about the same. Sometimes selling a house that is much on a lower scale may take a lot more work than dealing with a client or a house that's on the higher scale. So, I think it's kind of, it has its own balance. It depends on the personality of the client, and some people definitely require a lot more attention, and then some not so much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I've heard, because I have a friend who does real estate. She's not a broker or anything, but she does real estate, and she tries to do some of the high-end homes, and it tends to be a little more work because their expectation is greater, which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing at all. Definitely the expectation, you definitely are dipping into a different, I would say, genre, if you will, going and getting into that $1 million point. People definitely have a different expectation, how you market, how you put it out there, how the presentation. So it's definitely, they're there is more of an expectation.
Now, I was reading a blog the other day about the real estate market, and I personally thought everything was turning around for the better and coming back, being, looking at the past years of 2008 and 2007 and up in there. What's your perception of the real estate market now?
Well, I do feel like we will probably need to brace for another bubble. I feel like things have been going so well. It's, sometimes it's that too good to be true feeling. So I do, I kind of get my clients to always think and purchase smart in the event that, you don't want to overpay and just put too much into real estate. So that way, if, in fact, there is some type of slowdown or we see another, bubble burst, that it won't have such an economic impact on people as it did before.
Now, with the bubble, is it, because it's kind of confusing for the average person, with the bubble, it typically becomes a buyer's market because the properties are not valued as high. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It definitely becomes, but at the end, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So even your buyers are affected because their money is, kind of hurt too. So as to what they can buy, and the people that are selling, they're not going to get the most bang out of their properties or, the value out of their properties either. So it hurts both ways. But for those that can afford, and say, oh, I see the market, I can go in and scoop up these properties because I just have money sitting aside to be able to do that. But a lot of people don't. So it affects both sides.
Okay. Well, let's just talk some practical tips for a minute since we're here for maybe, let's say, a young couple, maybe one children or maybe no children. What would you suggest they do in approaching buying their first home?
Well, I definitely would say going into buying their home is to try to have as much down payment as possible. So really, start prioritizing. Don't go out and start purchasing cars or making large purchases before you really go in to buy a house, because that could totally throw you completely off when you go to a lender and they're seeing, your debt ratio is kind of out of whack. So really minimize a lot of your purchases. Make sure that your credit is tighten that up, and really just start saving, because there will be a lot of different things that come up that you will need to have money to get to the closing table.
Yeah, and saving, because I often tell people it's not just to buy the home, but it's also the maintenance of it, because we tend to forget about that, especially when we're purchasing our first one. We think, oh, it's just $1,500 mortgage. Oh, that's good. But you forget if the furnace goes out or if you have electrical problems, or, oh, my gosh.
And things will happen. That dishwasher will blow out, or something will leak, and you got to now repair some floors, or, even in brand new houses, something is always going to happen.
Yeah, and you just have to brace yourself for it. And I think if you at least have something saved, don't just don't say, oh, I make this amount and I can afford to pay the mortgage and not consider the maintenance. And I think that's very
with that with my clients, even ones that want to go out and do high-end things. I'm like, do you really need that? Is that really, and probably to shoot myself in the foot at times, because I'm just very straight out, point blank. I'm like, I think because of my experience, I've traveled, I have moved around quite a few times, and I've worked personally with realtors that, at the end of the day, all they saw me was a check, to get to closing. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you didn't really care about me. You didn't care what kind of house, if that was the right house for me. You were just trying to get a check. And I think I've had such that experience that when I deal with people, I'm just, I sleep good at night. I don't have to worry about, really, I'm good if I ever have a real estate sale or not. So I'm okay to be able to give people the truth and let them know you don't have to spend, to your max budget. Pull back. Then if you have a little extra room and you want to make some improvements or find a house that maybe you can take your time, upgrading and doing things in a pace that is going to work for you, then that's the best route to go. Then you're like, why buy stress? I think I say that to people all the time. I'm not going to buy stress.
That's it. Go spend money to be stressed out. That's not smart.
Exactly. I'm buying stress.
Speaking of moving around, you mentioned moving around and having different things going on. You were in the music. Well, I won't say were because you still may be in the music industry.
Yes.
We'll talk about that. So what? Tell us about that experience in music, because most of us know you from that. What was that experience like?
Well, you guys, I started singing when I was like knee-high to a piano and did my first album at 7. And so I've been doing music my entire life. That is definitely a part of me, won't change. And I've actually been working on music. I probably have a nice little storage of music to really, put out to the world. And just, life happens. So things kind of take you on a different course, but it definitely hasn't taken me away from the music at all. So my plan is for sure to come out with some new music, which, I've definitely been working a lot all over. I've worked with Warren Campbell and Stanley Brown out of New York, and just, so they all know. They're like, okay, when you ready, you come, we work. Between mommyhood and handling my business and all the other things, it's like that. But that's my first love, music.
Yeah. Do you feel the industry was different at the time when you started than it is now?
Oh, it's totally different. I mean, just how they even sell music, how music is even presented. It's completely different. Most people now are either, you got to have a big following on YouTube, or you got to have, you already coming in with something to offer. And so it's not making an artist anymore, finding raw talent and developing that. Like record companies, they don't want that anymore. And it's kind of sad a little bit. But at the same time, there is a lot of growth in that. People that probably would not have an opportunity do because of all the platforms that are out there for them. But sometimes it can get overwhelming, and it's just so much where, it just creates this for the people just to be able to kind of figure out what they want. It creates this very short-term memory about our experiences because there's so much out there.
It really does. And I, like you said, I do get it does give opportunity to people that probably otherwise would never have had it. But the thing that I don't like about it is the fact that the people who have you have artists that have put years into their business and just their craft, and overnight things could be taken off the table for them that they're probably more worthy of, but because you got a YouTube sensation who has 15 million or so followers.
Right.
It becomes a numbers game more than about the talent and the skill set and just the equity that you have, because there's no way in the world that somebody that just started last week on YouTube and just has a following should be able to sit at the same table as someone who has put 20 years and has a catalog,
Exactly.
to show for.
And I just find, where when we did music, it was real music. It was like, I just remember my first album, they were in there literally doing the bass with a real bass, the real drums, real guitar. And I know there are several producers that still work like that. I know Warren definitely still is very much into, live real music. But with, I have a 15-year-old son, and I hear him. He's in there on his computer just making beats, and I'm like, oh, that's not real music. I'm like, that's not real music.
It's programming. All you need is a computer nowadays.
Yes,
you can do anything.
That's it. I was like, you're just tapping keys. I'm like, go sit down at the piano and play. That's real. I said, you can do that, but you also need to know, like, the craft. You need to understand how all of this is formed, and you will have so much of just you have better assets to offer when you have these, you learn these things and talents.
Yeah. You mentioned having a 15-year-old son. Now, you're a mother of 3 boys, right?
Ah, yes.
So the 15, is he the oldest, youngest, or?
That is my oldest son, and I have a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
Oh, wow. So you're going to be well taken care of. You are on your way. I know it's a lot now, but in 20 years you'll be so glad.
I'm ready to choke them every single day.
I know from just being boys and horse playing and probably eating all the food. I can just imagine 3 boys.
Yes. Yes.
But wow, I saw a clip of the episode where your mom Debbie was showing them how to pitch cookies. I guess they were selling for some cause or something. And I said, so your mom is determined to make them the legacy of Sheffield Real Estate,
yes.
and teaching them how to do business.
Yeah, these kids nowadays, they just have no idea. They really don't. The hustle. They just don't understand the hustle. So.
Yeah, that's right, and that just made me smile. And she was like, "Okay, you guys did good. We got to work on your pitch, though." I said, "Wow, that is beautiful." But it's so important these days because without this generation, they don't get it, because most times it's handed to them and it's so easily accessible. They don't really understand how to be a go-getter and bounce back.
They don't, and it's so sad just to see that. But, it really is a generation of kids that just have no idea. You have a very small percentage that get it, but overall, and it's just our job as parents, too, to help. We have to stand our ground. We have to stay consistent, and sometimes that gets difficult because, we're in this millennial generation, and we're like, okay, well, they're not gonna experience what I experience. I'm gonna be able to give them more, and you're able to do more, but that more doesn't always mean better.
That's right. Well, I definitely want to let you plug the show and tell us what we can expect. I know it's premiering on November 30th, correct?
November 30th, 9:10 Central, or 10:09 Central. On FYI, so whatever your local cable listing is for that, definitely find it. And I would just say, as a switch up from how women are being portrayed on television, this is kind of a breath of fresh air. And if we want to see more shows like this, whether it's Sheffield Real Estate or just other shows that really highlight family, highlight, mothers, highlight the women just doing very positive things in entrepreneurship, then we should support it. Definitely.
Right.
Just to show the network, this is what we want to see. We don't want to see, all the time these shows where our women, our African-American women are being called bees and hoes and, fighting.
By each other, might I add.
By each other. And, ratings are high because that's what people are watching. So let's flip that. Let's flip that perception and show these networks that, that's not how we really want to be portrayed. We really want to, because there are really great women out there doing some really great things. And not just the women, but, it shows, my husband and I have been married almost 19 years. So it shows family. It shows, that you can do and put your mind to whatever it is that you have, your goals set for.
That's right.
So definitely tune in. Sheffield Real Estate, FYI, 10-9 Central.
on November 30th. Now, I can't let you leave without just giving our ladies some tips, because you've been married, as you said, to Gary Sheffield for 19 years, while being a gospel artist and real estate mogul and a mom. How have you guys balanced that and kept faith and family at the center of your marriage?
Well, definitely, having God at the center is very, very important. So that's number one. Just being a praying wife. Sometimes, you may not always see eye to eye with your husband, but just having that prayer language with God and just sometimes keeping your mouth closed. Pray, keep your mouth closed. Not everything you think you need to say. But just really having open communication. I think that's the biggest thing that I could say. And never be afraid. Sometimes we all need a little tune-up or, a third party. So my husband and I, we always tell people, look, we go and we'll get, some counseling when we need it, and just to make sure that we're on track. And I think when you're not, sometimes that's like taboo, especially for black people. I ain't going to see, I don't need to talk to anybody. But sometimes having that third party to say, hey, this is what she's saying and this is what he's saying. And you're like, you know what? Okay, I get that. I understand that. And get, something like our bodies, we need alignment at times.
That's right.
Everything else in our lives is the same way. Wow.
Well, DeLeon, I appreciate you joining me. You guys be sure to check out the show, Sheffield Real Estate, November 30th. You said 10 Central or 9 Central?
9 Central. So it's 9 Central.
Perfect. We will be checking it out, and I'm so excited to see it. And we'll be looking for some new music real soon. We'll give you a year or so. We won't put so much pressure. So this time next year, we hopefully will have a new single by you. For sure. That is definitely the plan. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll be on the lookout for more projects from you. This has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.